In this life, there are times when we feel as if we are carrying a heavy burden. Worries and emotional obstacles make every step tiring, as if walking on an endless road. But if we stop for a moment and listen to the teachings of the Buddha, we may realize that life is truly short and we don't need to carry too many things. The Buddha teaches, life is short, don't carry a heavy burden. A profound reminder to let go of what is unnecessary, so our hearts can be light and peaceful. When we worry too much, when we are busy with thoughts and problems that cannot be solved immediately, our hearts become heavy and our minds cannot be at peace. But when we learn to let go, we will feel freedom and tranquility in our hearts. That is the message the Buddha wants us to realize. Don't carry a heavy burden. We don't need to cling to the past, nor should we fear what hasn't yet come. Let's live fully in the present, love ourselves and those around us, and especially know how to forgive ourselves. When we do this, our hearts will be light, life will be peaceful, and we will find joy in simple things. So, take a moment every day to listen to the Buddha's teachings. Let those words sink into your heart so that your soul can relax and find peace. We don't need to be tense. We don't need to worry too much about things that cannot be changed. Because as the Buddha taught, life is short. Don't carry a heavy burden. Sometimes life makes us feel tired and exhausted. We face all kinds of worries, from work, family, to social issues. It seems like every day that passes, we take on another burden that we can't escape from. Sometimes, just one long day of nonstop thinking and worrying can make our minds heavy. But if we look deeply into the nature of these sufferings, we will realize that suffering doesn't come from circumstances or events happening outside, but from the way we react and cling to those things. The Buddha teaches that suffering is not something foreign. It is the heavy and disturbed emotions in our hearts. And that is the result of a mind that cannot let go, always clinging to the past or things beyond our control. When we don't learn to let go, when we don't know how to relax, our minds become tense and tired. It's those repetitive thoughts about the past, about things we can't change, or about the future that we can't predict, that are the sources of suffering. But the Buddha teaches that we can change the way we face life. All suffering comes from attachment and desire. We want to control everything, want everything to go the way we want. And when we don't achieve that, we feel sad, anxious, and disappointed. But these feelings are temporary. They will pass if we know how to look at them and forgive ourselves. One of the basic principles in Buddhism is all things are impermanent. Everything that happens in this life is temporary. They don't last forever. If we can understand and accept that everything changes, we will be less bound by emotions and worries. When facing difficulties, instead of letting our minds be caught up in a whirlwind of anxiety, the Buddha advises us to maintain a mindful attitude, live fully in each present moment without worrying about the past or future. Let the thoughts and emotions pass like clouds in the sky, rather than trying to hold them tight. The fatigue of life is not the result of busy tasks or challenges in life. Fatigue comes from our constant desire to control, from worrying about things that cannot be changed. When we cannot let go, when we cannot accept the changes and impermanence of life, we will live in a state of constant tension and exhaustion. The Buddha teaches us that letting go is not about abandoning responsibility or not caring about life, but about realizing that what belongs to us will come and go by itself. We only need to do the best we can in the present, live with compassion and wisdom, and let everything follow its own course. There is a story in Buddhist scriptures about a teacher teaching his student that in order to find peace, they must learn to relax. One day, the teacher gave the student a jar full of water. The teacher said, "Try to pour out the water without spilling it." The student tried every way but could not do it. The teacher said, "This jar is your mind. If you don't let your mind relax, you won't be able to control your thoughts and emotions." This is the message about letting go. Only when we relax can the mind be peaceful, no longer oppressed by worries and suffering. So how can we practice letting go and living mindfully? First, we must begin by realizing that our mind is not everything. When we feel anxious, stressed, or disappointed, these are just temporary emotions. They are not our true nature. If we can identify and understand this, we will no longer cling to them, but let them pass. We will learn to accept instead of resist. This acceptance does not mean surrendering or giving up, but it is a way for us to view things clearly and calmly. When the mind lets go of burdens, you will feel freedom in every step. You will see that life is not a race, but a journey to find peace and happiness in each moment. The Buddha teaches, happiness is not a destination, but a journey. We don't need to rush. We don't need to force ourselves into any mold. Just live fully with ourselves and enjoy what the present brings. Therefore, if you feel tired and suffering, remember that all these things come only when you cling to the past or worry about the future. Let go, live in the present, and you will feel the lightness and tranquility in your soul. We are often caught up in thoughts of the past or worries about the future. We cannot stop thinking about past mistakes, unfinished things, or wrong decisions we've made. Or sometimes, we fear what has not yet come, the challenges ahead, the worries about what might happen. However, the Buddha teaches that to attain inner peace, we need to learn to live fully in the present moment, let go of the past, and not worry about the future. Peace is not something we can search for far away. It is not a place or a circumstance that we must reach to feel tranquility. Peace is a state of mind when we can live fully and completely with what is happening right now. In truth, we cannot change the past, and the future has not yet come. So, why should we carry those worries in our hearts? Why can't we just live with what is here, what exists in this very moment? The Buddha teaches, do not cling to the past, do not worry about the future, just live fully in the present. This is a profound teaching that if each of us can understand and practice, we will find peace in our hearts. The past is gone, unchangeable. No matter how much we regret or feel sorry, the past will always be the past. And the future, no matter how uncertain, cannot be predicted. We cannot live in a future. We can only live in the present, where everything can change and transform in an instant. When we live in the present, we will no longer carry the burdens of the past or the worries of the future. Worries and fears will disappear on their own when we know how to live fully with each step, each breath, and each moment. Only then will our souls truly be free, and peace will come. Peace is not absolute stillness, but harmony with everything in life. No matter how difficult, challenging, or unstable life may be, if we know how to view and accept everything as it is, we can still maintain peace in our hearts. Living in the present does not mean ignoring responsibilities or not caring about the future. On the contrary, living in the present helps us work more effectively, with a spirit of optimism and calmness. When the mind is not distracted by worries about the past or future, we can focus on the important things in life. The decisions we make will be wiser, and we will also more easily feel joy in every task, in every step of life. One day, you wake up, and instead of being swept up in the whirlwind of worries, you take a moment to stop, breathe deeply, and feel each breath of yours. You look around and see the beautiful things life offers. You may see the morning light shining through the window, hear the birds singing, or simply feel the peace in each heartbeat. Those are the present moments that we can live fully, without worrying about things that cannot be changed. The Buddha also teaches that life is impermanent and everything changes. When we understand this, we will no longer cling to the past or fear the things that have not yet come. Life will become lighter when we can relax, let go of all attachments, and just live with what is happening before us. That is the path to inner peace, where we do not need to seek peace anywhere far away, but only need to find it within ourselves. So how can we practice living in the present? It's simple. Whenever we feel our minds being distracted by thoughts, gently remind ourselves to return to our breath, to the sensations that are present. Let the thoughts pass by like clouds, without clinging to them. And remember, everything in life can change. Therefore, we don't need to worry about things that have not yet come. Let life flow naturally, and in each moment, we will find peace in our hearts. Peace is not a destination, but a journey. Live each day fully, embrace everything with compassion and wisdom, and you will feel the peace that is present in this life. Compassion and forgiveness are always important concepts in Buddhism, and they are the keys to freeing the soul from pain and burdens in life. In life, we cannot avoid hurts, betrayals, misunderstandings, insults, or suffering caused by others' actions. But the Buddha teaches that if we cannot forgive, if we cannot open our hearts to compassion, we ourselves are the ones who will suffer long term. Forgiveness is not just an action towards others, but first and foremost a gift to ourselves, allowing our hearts to be peaceful and calm. When we hold grudges and hatred, we not only hurt others, but also create invisible wounds for ourselves. These negative emotions are like a heavy stone weighing down our hearts, preventing our minds from resting, from living in the present. That is why the Buddha teaches that forgiveness and compassion are the ways to free the soul, to escape the whirlpools of suffering, and to live a free and happy life. Compassion does not mean we forget others' mistakes or accept their wrongdoings. Forgiveness is not resignation or silence in the face of hurt, but the realization that everyone has their own mistakes and weaknesses. We forgive not because others deserve it, but because we deserve to live in peace and freedom. When we cannot forgive, we imprison ourselves in a cage of hatred, resentment, and suffering. But when we show compassion and forgive, we free our souls from heaviness to receive love and peace. The Buddha teaches, hatred cannot remove hatred, only love can do that. This means that when we keep hatred in our hearts, we will never find liberation. Grudges only make our hearts heavier, preventing our minds from being at peace. However, when we learn to forgive, we will feel a lightness in our hearts, a true liberation. Compassion begins with ourselves. In fact, in order to forgive others, we must first learn to forgive ourselves. We are often very harsh and critical of ourselves for past mistakes, poor decisions, or perceived shortcomings. However, the Buddha teaches that everyone has their flaws and weaknesses, and forgiving ourselves is the first step in regaining peace in our hearts. When we learn to accept ourselves, love ourselves, and forgive ourselves, we will easily show compassion and forgiveness to others. Compassion is also not simply an act of kindness, but a practice in daily life. When we face difficult situations or people who do not treat us well, instead of reacting with anger or judgment, we can try to see them from a compassionate perspective. We can ask ourselves, are they suffering from difficulties or hurts that I don't know about? When we change our perspective, we see that those who cause us harm are sometimes just weak people, suffering, and not knowing how to face life's challenges. In a famous story from the Buddha's teachings, he forgave someone who had caused him much harm. This person insulted and scolded the Buddha, but the Buddha did not get angry or react with anger. He simply smiled and asked, "If I do not accept the gift you are offering, what will you do?" The person was surprised and replied, "I will take the gift away." The Buddha calmly said, "Likewise, if you cannot bring your anger and hatred with you, I will not accept them." This story emphasizes that when we do not accept others' resentment, we are in control of our emotions. And when we do this, we will find true peace. Compassion is the way for us to free ourselves from the burdens of the soul. When we learn to forgive, we no longer have to live in the shadows of the past. Instead, we will step into the light of love and peace. Compassion not only helps heal the wounds in our hearts, but it also helps us open our hearts, love, and understand those around us better. Because of this, we can live a life full of freedom, peace, and love. The Buddha teaches that when we forgive others, we are also doing something good for ourselves, opening our hearts, calming our minds, and living a complete life. In today's life, when everything becomes noisy and competitive, we often tend to seek external recognition. We may not realize that simplicity and humility are the keys to maintaining peace in our hearts. A person who lives simply is not someone who lacks, but someone who knows enough and appreciates the simple things in life. One morning, waking up in a small house where there are only simple yet cozy items. The house is not luxurious, but it is filled with laughter, love, and sharing. The owner of the house is a middle-aged woman living a life that is not too remarkable, but full of peace. Every day, she spends time taking care of the garden, raising small animals, and helping those around her when they need it. Her life is not flashy, but it is very fulfilling. She does not need much material wealth because she knows that the most important things in life are love, gratitude, and the simple moments spent with family and friends. Living simply does not mean living in lack or without goals. In fact, those who live simply often know how to find joy in small things, thus building a fulfilling and meaningful life. Simplicity helps us not to be swept away by illusions of wealth or power. When we reduce unnecessary concerns, we can focus on deeper values in life. Those who live humbly, without flaunting their success, often have a deeper perspective of the world around them, and they easily feel peace in their hearts. Another story may help us understand more about the value of simplicity and humility. The story is about a man who once lived in a large mansion with expensive cars and lavish vacations. But gradually, he realized that although his life was abundant in material things, it lacked peace in his soul. He felt lonely, stressed, and could not find joy in superficial success. One day, he decided to change, selling off luxury items and moving into a smaller house closer to nature. He began to spend more time with family and doing things he had never had the chance to do before. And then, he realized that in simplicity, he found the peace he had lost for so long. Simplicity and humility are not just a lifestyle, but also a way to find ourselves again. When we no longer have to worry about showing off or competing with others, we can focus on what truly matters: love, sharing, and self-development. These things help our hearts remain at peace and always filled with happiness. Like a river, simplicity and humility do not show off, but always flow quietly, gently, yet profoundly. Living simply helps us face life's challenges without being overwhelmed. And humility helps us understand that each person has their own value without needing to prove ourselves to anyone. Happiness is not about owning many things, but knowing enough and living in the present moment. As the Buddha teaches, do not let your mind be distracted by external things. Life may not be perfect, but inner peace is the most important thing. To find that peace, sometimes we only need to live simply and humbly, appreciating the small things, not showing off, but doing things for our own peace. True friendship is a precious gift that we can find in life. But truly, friendship is not something measured by time or the number of meetings. Sometimes we may know a person in just a short period, but feel a deep bond and understanding between the two. The Buddha teaches that true friendship is not based on physical presence or long-lasting time, but on sincerity and mutual understanding. True friendship is built on compassion and sharing. It is when we can feel the joy and sadness of our friend without needing to speak the words. Friendship is not only about happy moments, but also about understanding, being ready to share the pain, the worries in our hearts. The Buddha teaches that when we love and care for others with a sincere heart, we will receive warmth and understanding from them. These relationships are not created from personal gain or exchanging conditions, but from willingness, sincerity, and mutual care. A true friendship is when we can accept our friend with all their strengths and weaknesses. We do not try to change them, but simply love them as they are. The Buddha teaches that in any relationship, whether it is friendship or love, the most important thing is acceptance. Accepting that every person has their faults and weaknesses, and we can love them even if they are not perfect. True friendship is companionship, where each person can be themselves without needing to hide or pretend. When we understand the meaning of sincerity, we will understand that friendship does not require empty promises, conditions, or expectations. Friendship is simply about presence, listening, and sharing. The Buddha teaches that happiness is when we live sincerely with ourselves and with others. This also applies to friendship. When we are true to ourselves, when we don't have to pretend or hide anything, we will be able to build sincere and deep relationships. True friendship is not something we can find far away. It does not require material foundations or complete harmony in everything. The most important thing is empathy, the ability to understand and feel what our friend is going through. Some friendships are built through small conversations, simple actions, or a look of understanding. The Buddha teaches that the connection between people is not based on external things, but in the heart, in the resonance of the soul. In truth, true friendship can help us heal the wounds in our soul. When we have a friend by our side, we feel more at ease, knowing that no pain is impossible to overcome. Friendship helps us open our hearts, learn to love, and be compassionate. Sometimes it is the close friend who helps us see the good in ourselves again, reminding us that we are never alone on the path of life. In life, we often face challenges, sadness, and difficulties. But with true friendship, we will feel that we are not alone. The Buddha teaches that when we love and share with others, we are also healing ourselves. Every true friendship is a step closer to inner peace. True friends will never let us feel lonely in difficult times, and they will never abandon us in our weakest moments. True friendship is also an indispensable part of the journey of cultivating the soul. When we can build this relationship, we not only enrich our own soul, but we also learn to live with compassion, to understand and share. Every friend is a valuable lesson, helping us grow, learn how to love, and forgive. True friendship is not always easy to obtain. It requires time, patience, and most importantly, sincerity from both sides. However, when this friendship is built and nurtured, it will bring us boundless happiness, because in that relationship, we no longer have to worry or hide ourselves. We can be ourselves, share everything, and feel unconditional love. The Buddha teaches that happiness is not something we seek elsewhere, but the peace in our own hearts. And true friendship is an important part of helping us find that peace. Let us cherish true friendships in our lives, for they are valuable relationships where our souls can find peace and where we can live true to ourselves. Living mindfully, as the Buddha teaches, is not something too distant or abstract, but a very practical and close practice in daily life. Mindfulness is living with each breath, feeling the presence in every action, every moment of life. It is a process of returning to oneself, relaxing the mind, and observing the world around us with full awareness, without judgment, and without getting caught up in wandering thoughts. When we live mindfully, we live fully in the present, and in each moment, we can find peace, freedom, and happiness. The Buddha teaches that our minds are often pulled by thoughts of the past or future. And when that happens, we cannot feel the presence of life unfolding right before our eyes. Mindfulness is the ability to return to the present, breathe deeply and steadily, feeling each breath as a reminder of the sacredness of life. We are often too busy with thoughts of what has passed, of things that have not yet come, and forget that the present moment is the only thing that truly matters. Mindfulness is not just a state of mind, but a way of living, a way for us to connect more deeply with ourselves and the world around us. The Buddha's teaching on mindfulness is simple, but profoundly deep. He advises us to live fully in each moment, not to let our minds be distracted by external worries. When we eat, let us eat with attention. When we walk, let us walk with focus on each step. Mindfulness is not only shown through great actions, but also in paying attention to the smallest details in daily life. When we feel each breath of ours, when we become aware of each small movement of our body, when we immerse ourselves in the sounds, tastes, and sensations around us, we will realize that life is always full of wonderful and precious things. Mindfulness helps us free ourselves from the worries and sadness that life sometimes brings. When the mind no longer clings to the past or fears the future, we can feel peace right in the present. The Buddha teaches that if we cannot live mindfully, we will remain trapped in negative emotions, pain, and insecurity. Living mindfully is the way for us to control our minds, not to be swept away by temporary emotions, but instead to view things clearly and calmly. The state of losing mindfulness occurs when we let our minds be carried away by a stream of endless thoughts, worries, and desires that are never satisfied. This leads to fatigue, stress, and anxiety. But when we practice mindfulness, we learn to view everything with a clear and bright perspective, not tainted by discrimination or judgment. Mindfulness does not mean that we ignore emotions or difficulties, but when we face them mindfully, we can handle any situation calmly and clearly. The Buddha teaches that life is a river, it never stops flowing. This river can be moments of happiness, sorrow, or the emotions of life, but all are just temporary moments. When we realize the impermanence of life, we will no longer cling to anything, and instead, we will live in freedom and peace. Mindfulness helps us realize that each moment is precious and should be cherished because it is unique and cannot be repeated. The practice of mindfulness can start with simple things in life. When we wake up in the morning, take a moment to feel the quietness of the surrounding space, to feel our breath. When eating, instead of rushing, savor each bite. Feel the taste and nourishment it brings to the body. When working, do so with full attention, without being distracted by other thoughts. Mindfulness does not need to be something grand. It only requires us to do everything with awareness, fully and completely. One of the powerful tools to help us practice mindfulness is meditation. Meditation helps us return to ourselves, making the mind quieter and clearer. When we sit in silence, observing each breath, we can feel a deep connection with ourselves and the universe around us. Meditation is not just a method, but a way of life, helping us return to the present, to mindfulness in every moment. When we live mindfully, we are no longer swept away by worries or negative emotions. Instead, we will notice peace in everything we do. Every action, every word, every thought becomes meaningful and complete. Mindfulness helps us live a life full of awareness, not rushing, not worrying, but simply living in the presence of each moment. And when we live this way, we will realize that in this peace, we truly find happiness. There is no love greater and purer than the love parents have for their children. And according to the Buddha's teachings, love and filial piety towards parents are not just about providing them with material things or expensive gifts, but about presence, care, and sincere gratitude in every small action. The Buddha teaches that loving our parents is a great blessing, not only because of their sacrifices, but also because of the gratitude and respect we give them. Filial piety is the foundation of all moral values. It is not just shown through material gifts or formal ceremonies, but through caring for them in their later years. The Buddha teaches that parents are the ones who gave us life, who nurtured us from childhood to adulthood. Therefore, for our parents, we are not just their children, but also companions who will care for and love them when they grow old or sick. While the blessings we seek in life may come from many directions, the greatest blessing is when we can bring joy and peace to our parents. This is not always about providing them with money or luxury items, but about our presence beside them, the care we give them, and sharing peaceful moments with them in their later years. The Buddha teaches that loving our parents is not a duty, but a great blessing, an opportunity to express our sincere gratitude to them. Filial piety is also shown through living properly with morality and virtue. When we live well, do good deeds, and treat everyone around us with love and compassion, our parents will feel proud and happy for us. The Buddha teaches, caring for our parents is also caring for ourselves. When we love and respect our parents, we accumulate merit and blessings for ourselves. This is the deepest way to honor our parents. Moreover, in the process of raising and caring for our parents, we also learn how to show patience, gratitude, and compassion. When parents become old and weak, they may sometimes become fragile, vulnerable, and act in ways we do not understand. But it is precisely at this time that our compassion and patience are more important than ever. The Buddha teaches, compassion and tolerance are an important part of filial piety. We do not just love our parents when they are healthy, but also love them when they become weak, when they need care and support from us. When everything seems to be changing too quickly, we can easily forget the simple but most important values. Often, we are too busy with work, studies, or other relationships and do not spend enough time with our parents. However, the Buddha teaches that the time with our parents is priceless and irreplaceable. These precious moments need to be cherished and loved. Every day we live, every day our parents are present in our lives, is a great blessing that we need to be grateful for and take care of. Filial piety is not only a duty, but also an opportunity for us to learn and grow. When taking care of our parents, we also learn tolerance, patience, and compassion. We learn to love without expecting anything. Love not for personal gain, but for sincere affection. The Buddha teaches that love is not a transaction, not an exchange, but a dedication, a sacrifice with no expectation of reward. Filial piety is also shown through how we express our feelings to our parents, not only through words, but also through actions. Sometimes, words of love are not enough to express everything we feel, but actions speak volumes. When we help our parents with daily tasks, when we take time to listen to them, when we share peaceful moments with them, those are great ways to express love. The Buddha teaches that love is not just empty words, but practical actions in life. We also need to recognize that it is not only when our parents are old or sick that we need to care for them and express filial piety. Every day, every moment with our parents is an opportunity to show gratitude and love. Love has no stopping point, and filial piety is not just a repayment for a short time, but a lifelong journey. Taking care of our parents and loving them is not only a duty, but also a great blessing, an opportunity for us to live a meaningful life, full of gratitude, and appreciate what we have. Finally, when we know how to live with filial piety, we will feel peace in our hearts, because it is the way to live in accordance with the essence of morality and love. The Buddha teaches that loving our parents is one of the shortest paths to true happiness, a way for us to accumulate merit and blessings in this life. Our lives are often burdened by unnecessary things. Sometimes we worry too much about what has passed, about things we haven't done, or relationships that no longer matter. All of these gradually form an invisible burden that we carry every day, making our steps heavy and our souls constantly tense. But does life really have to be such a burden? Can we choose to let go and live more lightly in every moment? There is a good story about a man who lived in a small village. He was a carpenter, worked hard, and always carried a restless soul. One day, he met a Zen master who had traveled far to seek peace. The Zen master saw the worry and tension in the carpenter's eyes and gently asked, "Why do you carry this burden on your shoulders?" The carpenter replied, "I have to take care of my family. I have to work hard to make a living. I have to worry about the future, about things that have not come yet." The Zen master smiled and said, "Why don't you let go of the unnecessary things? Life is not a burden, you just need to live fully with what you have in the present. The carpenter didn't fully understand, but afterward, he began to try living differently. He didn't let himself drown in thoughts about the past or worries about the future. He started spending time taking care of each wooden chair he made, putting his heart into every small detail. He learned to laugh more, to feel life through every breath and every step. Gradually, the carpenter realized that when he let go of unnecessary worries, he lived more lightly and fully. His work was no longer a burden but became a joy. His family was no longer a heavy responsibility, but a warm home filled with love. He felt happiness in every day of life, not because of external things, but because of the peace in his soul. Life is not a burden that we have to carry, but a journey to find the most meaningful things. When we know how to let go of unnecessary things, we will live more lightly and fully. Worries about the future or concerns about the past only make us drift away from the present. We often forget that the present moment is the most precious gift life gives us. Instead of being caught up in thoughts about what will happen or what has passed, let's learn how to live in each moment, feel, and enjoy the simple but meaningful things. There is another story about an old woman who lived alone in a small house by the lake. Every day, she would wake up very early, open the door to look out at the clear water of the lake, listen to the birds singing, and watch the sunrise. She didn't have many possessions, but she always felt content with her life. Whenever someone asked her if she was sad, she would just smile and reply, "I have nothing to be sad about. I have let go of the unnecessary things. My life, though simple, is truly complete." We can learn a lot from people like her, who live simply and know how to let go. Sometimes, letting go does not mean giving up everything, but letting go of things that no longer add value to our lives. Let go of worries about the future, of recollections of the past, of relationships that no longer have meaning. When we do this, we will realize that life is not a burden, but a journey full of opportunities to find peace and happiness. Do not let yourself be caught up in the whirlwind of unnecessary worries. Remember that peace does not come from controlling everything, but from learning to let go and accept what is. Life is a precious gift, and if we know how to live fully in each moment, we will experience happiness right in the present. Tranquility and peace are always within us. We just need to know how to let go of what is unnecessary for them to shine. Life is not a burden, but an opportunity for us to learn, grow, and find peace in our hearts. Live lightly, let go of what no longer fits, and feel the beauty of life in every passing moment. This life, though full of happy moments, is not without its changes and upheavals. Each day, we witness the changes of things and phenomena according to the natural laws of the universe. Sometimes these are joyful events, sometimes painful losses, but all are only temporary moments. The Buddha teaches that accepting impermanence is an incredibly important lesson in life. When we understand and accept that everything has a beginning and an end, we will no longer suffer when facing loss or hardship in life. The impermanence of life is not only reflected in the changes of nature, but also in every person, every relationship, and in every emotion and thought we have. The Buddha teaches that everything changes, from great things like life itself to small things like moods, health, or living conditions. Everything undergoes a cycle of birth, existence, and then disappearance. And it is in this change that we can find balance and stillness when we know how to accept and live harmoniously with impermanence. When we accept impermanence, we no longer cling to what is past, nor fear what has not yet come. Instead, we live fully in the present with what we have, without worrying or regretting the past. Every moment is a precious gift, and when we understand that everything can change in the blink of an eye, we will know how to cherish each moment in life. This acceptance does not mean that we are indifferent, unconcerned, or giving up. On the contrary, accepting impermanence helps us live freely, gently, and mindfully. When we understand that nothing can stay the same forever, we will no longer cling to what has passed, to those who have left, or to lost opportunities. We will learn to let go, to free our souls, to let love be unbound, and to continue our journey without being burdened. Accepting impermanence also means accepting that the pain, loss, or difficulties in life are only temporary challenges. The Buddha teaches that, though life may be hard, we should not worry or suffer too much, because all hardships will eventually pass. Each challenge, each pain brings us valuable lessons, helping us grow and become stronger. When we learn to accept impermanence, we will no longer fear changes or losses, but instead will see them as an inevitable part of life, helping us improve on our spiritual journey. One of the manifestations of impermanence is the changes in relationships. People come and go, relationships change. But it is through these changes that we learn to love and forgive, to live fully with what we have, instead of worrying about what will be lost. When we understand that everyone and everything can change, we will no longer cling to what cannot be kept, but will live with gratitude and appreciation for what we have. The Buddha teaches that if you cannot let go, you will forever suffer. This is a reminder about accepting impermanence and learning to let go. Every time we face a loss, a change in life, it is an opportunity for us to learn patience, forgiveness, and inner peace. What is past cannot be changed, and what is to come is still unpredictable. Therefore, the most important thing is to live fully in the present, to love and to feel life in every moment. Impermanence is not something to be feared or avoided. It is a part of life, an unchangeable truth. When we understand and accept this, we will no longer suffer when we lose valuable things, because we have learned to appreciate and be grateful for them while they were present. This acceptance brings us freedom, tranquility, and peace in our hearts. We will no longer fear or cling to what cannot be changed, but instead, we will live a life that is light, free, and complete. Another important lesson from the Buddha is understanding that impermanence is not only something that happens in the outside world, but also a transformation within the soul. Our emotions, thoughts, and beliefs also change over time. When we realize that everything changes, we will no longer be swept away by negative emotions, but will learn to live calmly, accept, and love ourselves. Accepting impermanence is the way for us to find serenity, the path to liberation in this life. So, when we understand and accept impermanence, life will no longer be a long chain of worries and regrets. Instead, we will live with gratitude, fully live in the present, and love everything in life, whether it stays with us for a long time or not. Impermanence is not pain, but an opportunity for us to learn and grow. Mindfulness, according to the Buddha's teachings, is a method of living fully awake and deeply, helping us to be clearly aware of every action and everything around us. In a world full of busyness and chaos, where we are often caught up in worries about the future or regrets about the past, the Buddha teaches that mindfulness is the way to return to the present, to live fully in each moment. Mindfulness is not a difficult or esoteric concept. It is simply attention, full awareness of what is happening right before our eyes. The Buddha teaches that when we practice mindfulness, even in the smallest tasks like eating, walking, or working, we will learn how to live in each moment, experiencing completeness and peace in every action. Imagine a meal. Instead of eating hastily, let's eat with mindfulness. Savor the flavors of the food, chew each bite slowly, and let the mind not be distracted by other thoughts. Each bite, each sip of water becomes a meaningful action, helping us to experience the presence of life in that moment. When we eat mindfully, we are not only nourishing the body, but also nourishing the soul, helping us find peace even in the simplest things. Similarly, when we walk, instead of letting the mind wander to distant places, let's focus on each step. Feel the feet touch the ground, feel the surrounding air, and feel the movement of the body. When we walk mindfully, we are not only moving forward, but also moving inward, connecting with each moment and feeling the life unfolding around us. Mindfulness can also be practiced in our daily work. Instead of letting the mind be dominated by stress or worries about the outcome, let's work with full attention and presence. Every task, no matter how small or large, when done with mindfulness, brings great value. When we work without distractions, without worrying about the result, we will feel lightness in the soul and satisfaction in each action. The Buddha teaches that joy and peace do not come from material achievements, but from living fully in each moment, from performing every task with a clear mind and effort. Mindfulness not only helps us focus on our work, but also helps us handle difficult situations in life calmly and wisely. When facing challenges, instead of panicking or reacting impulsively, we can stop, take a deep breath, and observe the situation from a clear perspective. Mindfulness helps us not to be swept away by negative emotions, not to let anger, worry, or fear dominate, but instead, we will act calmly, with wisdom and compassion. This is how the Buddha teaches us to face life mindfully, so we are not swept away by external conflicts, but find peace within ourselves. Mindfulness is not a method that can be done once and for all, but a continuous practice, a habit formed in each moment of life. The Buddha teaches that we can practice mindfulness anytime, anywhere, in even the smallest actions. Mindfulness is not only when we meditate or take time for ourselves, but when we truly live in the present, living in each breath, each step, each word. When we live in mindfulness, every moment becomes meaningful and valuable. A valuable lesson from the Buddha is that when we practice mindfulness, we will realize that happiness is not something far away, but is the presence in each moment. Happiness is not a goal to be achieved, but the experience of life right in the present. When we live with mindfulness, we will no longer worry about the future, no longer be concerned about the past, but simply live fully in what is happening. Mindfulness also helps us view life with a calm attitude and acceptance. When facing challenges, instead of resisting or feeling exhausted, we will accept that life has changes and challenges that cannot be avoided. This acceptance does not mean we surrender, but is the understanding that everything has a reason and value in our journey of growth. Mindfulness helps us live naturally, not clinging too much to results or seeking perfection, but simply living in peace and understanding. Therefore, when we practice mindfulness, we not only learn how to work with full attention, but also how to face emotions, thoughts, and situations in life calmly and wisely. Every moment becomes an opportunity for us to live fully, to love, and to experience life with gratitude. It is this practice that helps us find peace in our souls and satisfaction in life. The Buddha teaches that when we live with mindfulness, we will find the path to happiness and freedom. Forgiveness, one of the deepest and most powerful teachings in Buddhism, is not only an act for others, but also a gift we give to ourselves. Sometimes we easily forgive others, but we find it difficult to forgive ourselves. We may forgive those who have hurt us, but we cannot let go of our own mistakes, wrong decisions from the past. The Buddha teaches that forgiveness is not only about being compassionate toward others, but also about liberating our own soul. More importantly, forgiveness is the way for us to find peace in life. When we cannot forgive, especially when we cannot forgive ourselves, our hearts become heavy. Feelings of guilt, self-blame, or regrets keep lingering in our minds, preventing us from moving forward, from living in the present. These wounds, whether caused by others or ourselves, make us suffer, making the soul unfree, restless. The Buddha teaches that to free ourselves from this pain, we must let go, we must forgive, both others and ourselves. Self-blame and regret for what has passed only make our minds heavier. We cannot change the past, and the mistakes that have occurred cannot be fixed. But we can learn from them, rather than living in endless regret. Forgiving ourselves is the way for us to realize that everyone makes mistakes, and those mistakes help us grow, help us realize the value of forgiveness and patience. When we learn to forgive ourselves, we will feel lightness in our souls, as if a burden has been lifted, and our hearts will be more open, ready to embrace new opportunities. The Buddha teaches that forgiveness is not about forgetting or accepting the evil that others or we have done, but about accepting that each person has their weaknesses and mistakes. Forgiveness is about opening the heart, a way to free our soul from negative emotions, from feelings of injustice or hurt. Forgiveness is when we understand that anger and hatred only increase our own suffering. When we forgive, it does not mean we do it for others, but for our own soul. Forgiveness is a way for us to renew ourselves, to free ourselves from the heaviness of negative emotions. In particular, forgiveness is an essential part of the healing journey of the soul. When we forgive others, we not only help them free themselves from suffering, but we also free ourselves from haunting memories and painful moments of the past. Forgiveness creates space in the soul where love and peace can grow. When we forgive ourselves, we also open a new space to love, to live fully in the present without being haunted by the mistakes of the past. Forgiveness is not just an act of wisdom, but also an act of compassion, of profound understanding of the nature of life and people. We often hear that our greatest enemy is ourselves, because it is our negative thoughts, self-blame, and guilt that keep us trapped in endless pain. The Buddha teaches that when we let go of negative thoughts and practice forgiveness, we will free ourselves from those invisible burdens. Think about the moments when we feel free, when we live in love and peace. That is the result of forgiveness, not only for others, but for ourselves. Forgiving ourselves does not mean we ignore our mistakes or wrong decisions, but it is a way for us to acknowledge and accept our flaws without letting them control our present life. The Buddha teaches that we must face our mistakes calmly and patiently, learn from those mistakes so that we do not repeat them. Forgiving ourselves is a process, not a one-time act. It requires time, understanding, and acceptance. Therefore, take the time to reflect on yourself, to understand and forgive the mistakes of the past. Only when we can do this will our hearts truly be free and our souls can be at peace. Forgiveness is an act that brings peace, not only to others, but also to ourselves. When we can forgive ourselves, we will no longer be controlled by negative emotions or past wounds. Forgiveness is the path to freedom, liberation, and happiness. In modern society, where everything happens quickly and intensively, we easily feel caught up in the flow of life, forgetting where we are going, what we are doing, and why we are doing these things. We chase after achievements, goals set by society, and sometimes we do not realize that this haste only makes us feel exhausted, losing peace and joy in every moment. In this context, the Buddha's teachings on simplicity and mindfulness become more important than ever, like a bright light guiding those who are searching for inner peace amidst life's storms. There is a story that I always remember. The story is about a young man living in a big city with a high-pressure job and endless ambitions. He worked day and night, participating in the never-ending race of modern life, always striving for what society considers success: a big house, a nice car, a prestigious job. But after many years, he realized that he didn't feel happy. Each day passed, and he only felt tired and anxious. He no longer had time for family, for friends, and especially for himself. He began to feel lost, even though on the outside he had all the things that people call success. One day, he met an old teacher who had lived a simple and peaceful life. The teacher showed him another path, not a rushed race, but mindfulness in every step. The teacher said, "Life is not a race to win. If you keep chasing things outside of yourself, you will never find happiness. Slow down. Take time to listen to yourself, to feel what's happening around you." He followed the teacher's advice and began to change his way of life. He no longer raced against time, no longer felt pressured to achieve the accomplishments that society deemed important. He started to live with what he had in the present, no longer worrying about what was to come. He found joy in the simple things: a morning waking up, a gentle breeze blowing through the window, the sound of birds singing outside. He realized that happiness is not a destination, but a journey. And that journey is only truly complete when we know how to live in each moment, not chasing after the hustle and not being caught up in societal pressures. His story is not a strange one. It is the story of many people in modern society, where we often face pressures from work, family, friends, and ourselves. We often think that we need more money, more success, more power to be happy. But in reality, those things cannot bring us peace in our hearts. They may bring temporary joy, but only when we know how to live simply, mindfully, and with what we have, will we truly experience the value of life. The Buddha's teachings about simplicity and mindfulness are the remedies for those souls caught in the whirlwind of modern life. Simplicity does not mean living in lack, but living with enough, appreciating the small and simple things in life. Mindfulness is living in the present, not worrying about the future or being preoccupied with the past, but focusing entirely on what is happening right now. When we live mindfully, we can see the beauty in the simplest things: a peaceful morning, a conversation with loved ones, or simply a smile from a friend. Modern life may not be easy, but it is not a burden. We can choose how to live, choosing not to chase after what society considers success, but instead choosing to live simply, mindfully, and peacefully. When we learn to let go of unnecessary things, we will find lightness in our souls, no longer being caught up in invisible pressures that we only create for ourselves. Peace does not come from the outside, but from the mindfulness within ourselves. If you feel tired and stressed, take a moment to stop. Listen to yourself. Find the peaceful moments in life and feel its presence. Life is not a race, but a journey to find joy and peace in each step. And in that journey, simplicity and mindfulness will always be wonderful companions, helping you maintain peace and not be swept away by societal pressures. One of the great lessons that the Buddha teaches us is the connection with ourselves, which is extremely important in the journey of finding peace and happiness. In this busy and chaotic life, we easily forget the necessity of stopping and listening to ourselves. We may spend hours caring for work, family, and friends, but forget that without connection with ourselves, everything else becomes superficial and lacks depth. Connecting with ourselves is not something difficult to understand, but it is understanding ourselves, loving and accepting what belongs to us. The Buddha teaches that, in order to love and care for others fully, we must start by loving ourselves. This is not simply about self-gratification with material things or external needs, but a deep understanding of our soul, our emotions, thoughts, and inner desires. When we connect with ourselves, we learn how to listen and understand what we truly need. Negative emotions, worries, and insecurities will no longer dominate us because we have identified and understood them. When we know how to look inward, we will see that the decisions in life are not always easy, but we can master them when we truly understand ourselves. The Buddha teaches that self-awareness is the solid foundation for us to make wise decisions, not influenced by external factors or temporary emotions. The reason we often feel lost in life or unable to make the right decisions is because we do not spend enough time connecting with ourselves. In the noisy moments of life, we easily lose the peace within and no longer hear our true inner voice. In fact, feelings of insecurity or anxiety often arise when we do not listen to ourselves, when we do not understand the true desires of our hearts. When we are not connected with ourselves, we get caught up in the needs and expectations of society, of others, forgetting that true happiness only comes when we live true to ourselves. Connecting with ourselves also includes loving and accepting ourselves, even when we are not perfect. The Buddha teaches that we are all human with weaknesses and mistakes, and these are what make us who we are. Loving ourselves does not mean being perfect, but accepting all aspects of ourselves, from our strengths to our weaknesses, and from there, finding the way to grow and become better. When we can love and accept ourselves, our souls will become lighter and peaceful, and we will no longer feel the pressure to change ourselves according to society's or others' standards. An important part of connecting with ourselves is creating quiet moments to stop and listen to ourselves. The Buddha teaches that, in a world full of noise and disturbance, we need to find a space of silence to return to ourselves. These quiet moments not only help us rest, but they are also times when we can truly recognize and understand the emotions and thoughts that exist in our hearts. When we take time for ourselves, when we allow our minds to rest and relax, we will realize that life is not about racing or fighting, but about a journey of learning, growing, and understanding ourselves. The best way to connect with ourselves is to practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is living in the present, fully experiencing each moment we go through, not letting our minds be distracted by the past or worries about the future. When we practice mindfulness, we will feel our presence in every action, every breath. Simple tasks like eating, walking, or working become opportunities for us to connect deeply with ourselves, to listen to what our body and mind need. Mindfulness not only helps reduce stress, but also helps us better understand our emotions and thoughts, allowing us to make decisions that are more in line with our true selves. Once we are connected with ourselves, we will easily recognize what we truly want, what brings peace to our souls. This connection helps us live authentically, no longer influenced by others or society's expectations. The Buddha teaches that when we live true to ourselves, when we understand and love ourselves, we will be able to live happily and peacefully, even when life is difficult or challenging. Connecting with ourselves not only helps us find peace in our souls, but it is also the foundation for building good relationships with others. When we love and respect ourselves, we will know how to love and respect others, creating sincere relationships full of love. So, take the time to return to yourself, to listen to and understand yourself, because this is the first step to living a full and happy life. In modern life, we are often easily caught up in the race for wealth and material possessions. New things, a nice car, a luxurious house, or material comforts seem to promise joy and happiness. However, according to the Buddha's teachings, attachment to material possessions is one of the causes of suffering. We often chase things outside of ourselves, forgetting that true happiness does not come from the tangible things we can own, but from peace and freedom within our hearts. The Buddha teaches that everything in this world is impermanent, not lasting. Material possessions, no matter how valuable, will eventually fade or change over time. Therefore, becoming too attached to these things makes us slaves to them, constantly living in anxiety, fear, and greed. When we place all our trust in material things, we will feel inadequate, never feeling enough. The Buddha calls this the endless thirst of the soul, always seeking things outside of ourselves, but never truly finding satisfaction or peace. One of the important lessons the Buddha wants to teach us is to learn to let go. Letting go does not mean abandoning everything, but learning how to recognize and live with what we need, not with what we want. The Buddha teaches that when we learn to let go of unnecessary material possessions, endless desires, and greed, our souls become freer and lighter. We no longer have to worry about owning more and more, but instead live simply and easily find happiness in the simplest things. When we reduce the material burdens, we will find that we are no longer bound by things outside the body, and instead, we can live fully with ourselves and with the present life. The Buddha teaches that true happiness does not come from owning a lot of property or material possessions, but from inner peace in the soul. When we know that everything is impermanent and can change at any moment, we will learn to cherish what we have without clinging to it, without trying to hold on to things that are by nature temporary. Practicing letting go in Buddhism is not simply about reducing unnecessary material possessions, but also freeing the mind from desires, jealousy, and comparisons with others. When we always want what others have or always feel we are lacking compared to others, we will never feel enough. But when we accept what we have, know enough, and live fully in the present, we will realize that happiness is not a destination, but a journey. And that journey can only be experienced when we let go of material burdens. Once we reduce material burdens, we will experience the wonderful freedom that not all material things can bring. This freedom is not freedom from the obligations or responsibilities of life, but freedom in the soul. We no longer have to worry about protecting, maintaining, or increasing material possessions, and can instead spend time on more important things like love, sharing, learning, and spiritual development. When we learn to live simply, lightly, without clinging to material things, we will feel like all burdens have been lifted, and our souls will be more open, easily welcoming the good things in life. Letting go does not mean rejecting the good things that life offers, but knowing how to accept what we need without letting them dominate us. The Buddha teaches that living without greed does not mean rejecting all that is good, but living with satisfaction and knowing enough. When we are no longer caught up in endless pursuits, when we no longer chase after things that are not truly necessary, we will find joy in simplicity, in peaceful moments, and in sincere relationships. We also need to realize that material things are not the only source of happiness. In fact, intangible things like love, sharing, and caring for others are the true values in life. When we are no longer bound by material possessions, we can spend time on important relationships, on taking care of ourselves, and on spiritual values. The Buddha teaches that a poor person is not one who lacks possessions, but one who always feels lacking. When we learn to live enough and live fully with what we have, we will realize that true happiness comes from peace in the soul, from loving and appreciating ourselves, and from authentic relationships. Therefore, reducing material burdens not only helps us live more freely, but also helps us regain peace in life. When we let go of greed and endless pursuits, we will find life becomes lighter and more meaningful, and happiness will no longer be a destination, but a journey we go through every day with gratitude, appreciation, and inner peace. In today's fast-paced and rushed life, we sometimes easily forget the core values of life, especially compassion. However, compassion is not something too distant or difficult to practice. It is in small, simple actions in daily life, from gentle looks, encouraging words, to being ready to share love and care with those around us. We can practice compassion every day, and these actions will help create a better society, a community full of love and connection. There is a story I always think of when I think about compassion. The story is about a woman named Lynn, who lived a simple life in a small village. Lynn was not rich or privileged, but she always did good things, even if they were small acts. One day, when she was on her way to the market, she saw an elderly woman struggling to carry a heavy bag of goods. Lynn didn't hesitate to go close and help the elderly woman carry her things home, even though she herself was not strong. When they arrived, the elderly woman thanked Lynn with tear-filled eyes and said, "Thank you. Your compassion has made this world a little bit more beautiful." Lynn just smiled, not needing any grand response. She understood that such small acts made a difference in both her life and the life of others. Not always can we do great things, but simple acts like helping others, sharing love, or simply listening can have a profound impact. Compassion is sharing from the heart, the ability to understand and empathize with others. Sometimes, we don't need to do anything complicated or expensive. Just a small gesture like helping someone in need, offering a word of encouragement to someone who is sad, or even just listening and sharing others' emotions. These things may not make us feel great, but they will surely make the recipient's heart warmer and will also bring more peace to our own hearts. Another example is the story of a man named Min, who lives in a crowded city. Min's work is quite busy, but every day he still makes time to do good things for others. One time, while waiting for the bus, Min noticed an elderly man standing next to him, looking tired. Without hesitation, Min helped the man find a seat and asked about his health. The elderly man looked at Min with gratitude and said, "Thank you. There are still people like you in this world, making life a little less lonely and dark." These words warmed Min's heart because he understood that his simple act had made someone feel happier, and that was enough. Compassion does not always require a grand response. A small gesture, a gentle word, a caring act. This is how we spread compassion into this world. We live in a society full of challenges, difficulties, and sometimes indifference. However, if each of us could practice compassion in our daily lives, our society would become warmer, closer, and more connected. Compassion not only helps improve the quality of life for those around us, but it also helps ourselves feel happy and at peace. When we share love and care, we too receive joy and peace in our hearts. The Buddha's teachings about compassion always remind us that love and kindness are never unnecessary. A small act, a gentle word, a caring gesture can bring about great changes in the lives of others, and also make our hearts more serene. Look around, and you will see that there are countless opportunities to practice compassion. Whether it's a smile to a stranger, a compliment to a colleague, or a free afternoon to help a friend in need, all of these actions can contribute to making the world a better place. Each of us can be a small flame, but when many flames come together, we create a strong light, illuminating the darkness of indifference and suffering. Compassion is not just empty words, but concrete actions we carry out every day. And when we sow love in life, we will receive many beautiful things, both from others and from ourselves. Let every day pass as an opportunity for you to practice compassion. Share love, care, and help those around you. Because life is not just about what we have, but also about what we give to each other. We often chase after big goals and material achievements, sometimes forgetting that true happiness and peace come from simple, small things. The Buddha teaches that if we know how to live in gratitude and find joy in the simple moments of daily life, we will discover an endless source of peace and happiness. Simple things like a warm cup of tea, a good meal, or just sitting quietly and feeling the surrounding stillness. These are precious moments that help our souls find peace in this chaotic world. Peace of mind is a state that each of us can achieve, but this does not come from owning big things or things beyond our reach. In fact, it is in the smallest things that we can find the peace we are looking for. The Buddha teaches that when we truly focus and live fully in the present, we will realize that joy does not come from distant or great things, but from simple moments full of meaning. It could be when we enjoy a warm cup of tea, feeling the rising steam, the gentle aroma spreading, or when we sit down and feel the soft breeze passing by. These moments help calm our minds, drive away all worries, and bring us peace and joy in the simplest things. A good meal, for example, can also become a moment of meditation if we eat mindfully. When we enjoy food, let each bite pass through our senses, savoring the flavor, the combination of ingredients, the warmth in our body. The Buddha teaches that every action, no matter how small, like eating, walking, or talking, can become an opportunity to practice mindfulness, to live in the present, to find joy and peace in every moment. When we eat without rushing, not thinking about other things, we truly live in each second, fully living in the small things life brings. The important thing is that we must learn to appreciate the simple things in life. Gratitude is not just appreciation for the big things we receive, but the ability to recognize the value in the smallest things, the things we sometimes overlook or don't pay attention to. Gratitude is the awareness that everything we have, from a fresh breath, a peaceful moment, or a loved one's smile, is a precious gift life gives us. When we practice gratitude, we no longer get caught up in endless ambitions or worries about the future, but live fully in the present, feeling the fullness of what we have. The Buddha teaches that happiness is not a destination, but the path. Peace and joy are not things that will come when we achieve this goal or possess this material, but they are what we feel in every step of life. The peaceful moments, the simple things, the small joys in everyday life are the seeds that create happiness, helping our souls heal and grow. Therefore, if we know how to stop, observe, and feel these things, we will realize that life is full of wonderful and valuable things. A great lesson from Buddhism is mindfulness in every action, so we do not miss out on precious moments in life. When we practice mindfulness, we are not simply living, but living with awareness, fully living in each moment. A warm cup of tea, a delicious meal, or just a peaceful morning, all of these can become sacred moments if we know how to listen and fully experience them. These moments are not just external experiences, but opportunities for us to connect deeply with ourselves, with the present, and with the life around us. When we learn to appreciate life in every small detail, our souls will gradually become calm, no longer caught up in worries or endless ambitions. The Buddha teaches that when we live in gratitude and joy from simple things, we will find inner peace, no longer being influenced by external factors. This is the path to liberation in the soul, healing the pains and anxieties of life. Peace and joy come from within, from knowing how to connect with ourselves and with the small things in life. The Buddha teaches that when we practice mindfulness and gratitude, we will not only find joy in simple things, but we will also find peace in every breath, every step. When we live in the present, when we are not rushing or worrying about what's to come, life will become lighter, filled with serenity and joy. Therefore, take the time to feel the peace around you, from the smallest things. Be grateful for simple moments and live fully with what you have in the present. Life is not a race, but a journey filled with miracles, small joys but deeply meaningful. When we learn to live like this, we will feel joy, happiness, and peace in our own lives. One of the things that easily hurts our souls is comparison. We have often compared ourselves to others, looking at their success, appearance, or seemingly perfect lives, and feeling like we are not good enough, not successful enough. The Buddha teaches that true peace will never come when we constantly live in comparison with others, because everyone has their own path, and only when we live fully with ourselves, unaffected by others' views, will we feel complete and happy. Comparison is a habit that not only harms our spirit, but also makes us lose our self-confidence and self-acceptance. When we keep looking at the success of others, we easily forget our own values, efforts, and achievements. The Buddha teaches that each person has their own path, their own karma, and each person's life is unique. If we keep living in comparison, we will never feel enough and will always drown in a sense of lack, never achieving inner peace. When we look at others and feel they have more than we do, we often fall into the trap of comparison. We forget that everyone has their own difficulties, challenges, and pains that others may not see. What we see from the outside is just a small part of the whole picture, and it cannot reflect the true life of that person. The Buddha teaches that instead of looking at others and feeling lacking, we should focus on developing ourselves, living fully with our own path, and appreciating what we have. Each person's path is different, and that is what makes every life special and valuable. Comparison only makes us lose joy and peace in life because we cannot compare things that are different. Everyone has a starting point, a process, and a unique journey. When we stop comparing, we will realize that every step, every achievement, no matter how small or big, is valuable and worth appreciating. The Buddha teaches that, look at yourself, don't compare with others. When we stop comparing, we will see that we already have everything we need to live a full and happy life. The act of comparison also makes it easy for us to get caught in the cycle of dissatisfaction and the desire to achieve things beyond our reach. When we cannot have what others have, we easily feel like failures and become sad. But if we view life through the lens of the Buddha, we will realize that happiness does not come from owning what others have, but from living authentically with ourselves and feeling content with what we have. The Buddha teaches that happiness comes from within, from the peace we find in every present moment, not from external things. When we stop comparing, we also stop chasing unrealistic expectations. Instead of chasing the standards and models set by society or others, we create our own path. One of the great lessons in Buddhism is self-acceptance. Accepting ourselves is not easy, but it is the first step toward loving and appreciating ourselves. When we stop comparing ourselves to others, we will understand that everyone has their own value, and we can also create value for our own life. Life will become lighter when we understand that no paths are the same, and everyone walks at their own pace and with their own purpose. The Buddha teaches that we should live in the present with the path we are walking and find joy in each step. Peace comes when we no longer worry about what others are doing or have, and instead, we live fully with what we have and what we are experiencing. Take the time to stop comparing and look within yourself. Realize that you are enough, that you have done your best, and you deserve to be loved and appreciated. Focus on your own journey with its lessons, challenges, and the achievements you make. Only when you live in acceptance and stop comparing will you feel freedom in your soul, and peace and happiness will naturally come to you. The Buddha teaches that the path to happiness is not the path of comparison, but the path of self-acceptance and living fully with yourself. Remember that everyone has their own path, and happiness comes from living authentically and loving yourself, not from measuring yourself against others. Let go of comparison and live in gratitude for what you have, because that is the key to unlocking peace and joy in life. Suffering, a word that perhaps everyone has heard, and in life, no one can avoid it. No matter who you are, what circumstances you live in, suffering is always an inseparable part of life. However, the important thing is how we face that suffering. The Buddha teaches that suffering is not something unfamiliar or frightening, but an essential part of life. In fact, suffering is not something we need to avoid, but an opportunity for us to learn, grow, and find the path to liberation for ourselves. There is a story I really like about a man named Than, who lived in a small village. Than was a very kind and hardworking man. His life was quite simple, but not always smooth. One day, while working in the field, he had an accident that caused his leg to break. This was a big shock for him, as farming was his family's primary source of livelihood. Than was in pain, not only from the injury, but also from the worry about the future. He didn't know how to face this misfortune, and it seemed like all hope had faded away. However, in his most desperate moment, he remembered the teachings of a monk in the village. Suffering is part of life. When we accept it, not resisting, not blaming, we will find liberation. These words were like a bright light shining into Than's soul. He understood that suffering is not something that can be avoided, but how he faced it was what truly mattered. Than began to change his perspective. Instead of suffering and blaming himself, he began to accept the current situation, viewing it as a challenge life had given him. He no longer felt discouraged or blamed himself, but learned to live in the present and find positive things within his pain. Acceptance does not mean giving up everything, but knowing how to face and overcome it with peace. When we accept suffering, we are no longer controlled or influenced by it. we will find strength within ourselves, now enabling us to overcome any challenges. In Than's case, he not only overcame the injury, but also found peace within, because he no longer ran from suffering, but learned to live with it, learning to live calmly no matter how difficult the circumstances. The liberation that the Buddha teaches is not about escaping suffering, but learning how to face it and overcome it peacefully. Liberation is when we do not allow worries, anger, or suffering to dominate our lives. When we learn to accept and overcome difficulties, we will realize that suffering is only a small part of life, and it cannot control our happiness. Liberation is finding peace even in the challenges we face. Let's look at another example, the story of a woman named Lan. Lan is a single mother, living with her son in a small house. She works hard every day, but no matter how hard she tries, she cannot escape financial difficulties. She often feels tired and anxious about her future and her child's future. One day, while sitting and thinking about life, she asked herself if she could change her destiny, or if she could find joy in these difficulties. A friend of hers shared with Lan the Buddha's teaching: suffering is not something we must avoid, but something we need to face with compassion and understanding. When we accept it, we will find liberation in that suffering. Lan quietly thought and began practicing these teachings in her daily life. She no longer struggled against difficulties, but began to view them as an inseparable part of the journey of life. She learned to live with what she had, finding joy in simple things like a meal with her son's smiles, and warm afternoons in the sun. Gradually, Lan realized that it was these difficulties that helped her grow stronger, more resilient, and find peace within her soul. She no longer feared the future, nor was she caught up in negative thoughts. Instead, she learned to live in the present, accepting every challenge life brought and overcoming them calmly. She understood that suffering was not the enemy, but a companion that helped her find inner strength and peace. Suffering and liberation are not opposing concepts, but two parts of an endless cycle. When we know how to accept suffering, we will find liberation in it. Liberation is not about avoiding pain, but about no longer letting suffering control our lives. We learn to live with it, overcome it, and in that process, we find peace in our souls. Liberation is when we realize that no matter how hard life gets, we can still find happiness and peace within ourselves. Life is short, like a passing breeze, a moment that quickly passes and cannot be held onto. The Buddha teaches that, to live peacefully, we must learn to let go, not cling to worries, suffering, or things that cannot be changed. When we learn to let go, our hearts will become lighter, our souls will be healed and more peaceful. Life is only a short journey. If we carry too many burdens, we will not have enough strength to continue. Sometimes we carry anxieties, grudges, and negative emotions, thinking that they will protect us from harm. But in reality, they only make our minds heavier and our hearts more wounded. The Buddha teaches that, do not carry burdens, because when we let go of negative emotions, we can find peace and true love in this life. Let go of the past, and do not let worries about the future take away the joy of the present. When we learn to live lightly, we will feel freedom and lightness in our souls. Remember, joy does not come from possessing too much, but from living fully with what we have. Sometimes, a warm cup of tea, a delicious meal, or a peaceful afternoon with loved ones is enough to feel happiness. The Buddha teaches that when we live with gratitude, when we do not cling to material possessions or others' expectations, we will find joy in the smallest things. And from there, our hearts will be light and our souls will be healed. Life is short. Do not let worries, grudges, or negative emotions occupy your soul. Let go so your heart can be free and your soul can be peaceful. Live with gratitude, live fully in each moment, and love yourself a lot. Because when you love yourself, you will see that this life is truly worth living. May you always find peace in your soul, Learn to let go of unnecessary burdens and live a life full of love and happiness. Remember that every moment is precious, and you deserve to live with a light heart, peace, and full of joy.